Hey, so I was in a grocery store the other day, one of those massive, gleaming ones in Manhattan. Endless aisles of produce from 5 continents, a cheese section that felt like a library, 18 kinds of olive oil. And as I was reaching for a bottle of pomegranate molasses, a taste of home I can now find in New York, I had this sudden, sharp memory. It was of my mother, years ago in Dhaka, walking through our local bazaar. The vibrant, chaotic, overwhelming smell of fresh cilantro, ripe mangoes, and fish just out of the river. It was a food desert, by the official definition. No supermarket for miles. And yet, it was a feast. It got me thinking about the term we use so often here, food desert. And I realized, we've been telling ourselves a story that's too simple, and in that simplicity, we've missed the real plot. Welcome back. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is the unraveling thread. For years, the narrative has been clear. A food desert is a low-income area, often a community of color, without a supermarket. The solution? Get a supermarket to move in. Problem solved. It's a compelling, intuitive story. It feels like a solvable engineering problem. But what if the desert isn't just an empty, barren place that supermarkets have accidentally overlooked? What if it's a place that has been meticulously, surgically redlined by those very supermarkets? Not with maps and racist housing policies this time, but with something far more modern and insidious: data. Let's unravel that thread. The first thing we need to understand is that a modern supermarket chain is not a charity or a public service. It is a data-driven, profit-maximizing machine. They don't just pick locations based on a feeling or a vague sense of community need. They use sophisticated geomarketing software. They analyze terabytes of data, average household income, car ownership rates, educational attainment, housing density, crime statistics, and yes, racial demographics. They cluster and segment neighborhoods with terrifying precision. They know the exact projected lifetime value of a customer in zip code 10001 versus 10035. And when they run their algorithms, certain neighborhoods consistently light up red. Not because there's no demand for fresh food. People are hungry everywhere. But because the data says the profit potential is too low, the operational risk is too high. This is the new redlining. It's algorithmic, it's clinical, and it wears the mask of pure business logic. It says, this community is not a viable market. But what that really means is, we predict your spending patterns, your family size, your transportation constraints, and we have calculated that you are not worth the investment. The old redlining denied mortgages. The new redlining denies nourishment. And it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Without a store, residents spend their grocery dollars at convenience stores or dollar stores, reinforcing the data point that this neighborhood doesn't support fresh produce. The algorithm is proven right, and the desert remains. But here's where the fiction deepens. The focus on the mere presence of a supermarket is a distraction. I grew up in a place that would be labeled a desert, but we ate fresh, whole foods every day from a decentralized, resilient network of vendors. The problem in many American neighborhoods labeled as food deserts isn't just the absence of a big box store. It's the absence of that entire ecosystem. It's the lack of the small-scale farmer's market, the independent greengrocer, the culturally specific butcher shop. These small businesses have been wiped out by decades of disinvestment, zoning laws that favor big parking lots, and a financial system that won't give them loans. The supermarket is presented as the knight in shining armor, but sometimes, when one finally arrives, it's more like a colonial outpost. It doesn't engage with the local food culture, it replaces it. And if it doesn't meet its profit targets in 3 years, it closes. It leaves. Because its allegiance is to the spreadsheet, not the street. This is where my own perspective as an engineer and an immigrant collides with this story. I look at problems through systems. And the food desert framework is a bad systems model. It identifies a single point of failure, no supermarket, and proposes a single, monolithic solution. It ignores the entire history of how that land was deserted in the first place. The racist housing policies that depressed wealth, the highway construction that bulldozed business districts, the wage stagnation that tightened budgets. The supermarket is just the final, visible symptom. Chasing it as the solution is like trying to fix a leaking roof by only mopping the floor. I remember talking to a community organizer in the Bronx. She told me, "We don't need a savior, we need sovereignty." They weren't just petitioning for a chain store. They were building a community land trust to secure space for a cooperative grocery. They were connecting with regional farmers. They were teaching kids to grow vegetables in vacant lots. They were building a web, not waiting for a pillar. That is the antidote to the algorithmic redlining. It's messy, it's human, it's harder to quantify on a corporate spreadsheet, and that's exactly its strength. It can't be easily abandoned by a quarterly earnings report. So what's the takeaway? We need to retire the term food desert. It's a passive term. It implies a natural occurrence, an act of God. We should call it what it is: supermarket redlining or retail apartheid. This shifts the blame from the geography to the gatekeepers. It forces us to ask not, how do we bring food here, but what systems are actively preventing food from thriving here? The next time you hear about a neighborhood being a food desert, I want you to picture something. Don't picture an empty sandscape. Picture a map on a computer screen in a corporate office with a big, red, digital X drawn over a community by an algorithm. That is the real story. The unraveling of that story isn't about getting one store to change its mind. It's about challenging the very data points we accept as destiny. Thanks for listening. If this thread of thought resonated with you, please share this episode with someone who thinks deeply about the world we're building. For more episodes that question the narratives we're given, subscribe to the Unraveling Thread wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul Jaif Farabi for Light Not Studios. Visit us at lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, keep pulling the thread.